The sun, the moon, and the store. That's great. Um, and so the reason that an evangelical this is I think important to say. Evangelicalism is the term in German that is just Protestantism. So let me try to not get bogged down in the scholarly thing, but in German, if you say evangelisch, a person literally thinks you're just talking about the German Protestant church. So why? Because Luther's movement in Protestantism was called the evangelische, Bewegung or movement. And what that just means, it was like the gospel. So the nature of the Christian understanding of the gospel is that it's meant to be shared. Right? The Matthew famously has the Great Commission, go into all the world and make disciples of all nations, teaching them all the things that I've taught you and baptizing them in the name of the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit. So an evangelical, and this is what the original English movement I mentioned, like John Wesley, these guys, yes, they preach the gospel with the hope of converting sinners to a saving knowledge of Jesus Christ. Right? I would say Yeshua the Messiah, but it's like this is the same thing. And so what that is to them the essential core of Christianity. Now, that seems weird to people simply because Protestant liberals are basically the only form of people who call themselves a religion who don't believe in anything that they think is worth sharing with anyone. Everyone's evangelical. Marxists were the greatest evangelicals in human history. As I argue in episode 6 of Origins and Becoming Human, Marxism changed the literal world more quickly even than early Christianity did. Nothing had the influence that Marxism did. From 1840s to 1917 to the 1950s, the influence of Marxism is astonishing. And the literal thing that you can compare it with is only early Christianity. And there's a phenomenal book by a guy named Hyde, who became a Catholic, and I always forget the name of it, but I think it's called like Marxism and Leadership or something. It's this amazing book where the guy is giving a lecture series to bishops. He was a former devout Marxist who was one that became a nobody worker to one of the leaders of, I think, one of the major cities, maybe Birmingham, one of the major sort of organizing cities in the London Marxist movement. He eventually converted to Catholicism, but he gave 4 lectures to Catholic bishops on what he thinks Catholics should learn from Marxism, which is completely appreciatory. There is no criticism. That book is so inspiring. I love that book. It's part of the basis of that lecture I gave in Becoming Human, because he shows the Marxists were the most amazing educators. Like, they believed you could take any human being, no matter how dumb they thought they were, no matter how oppressed, and you could turn them into an eloquent spokesperson of dialectical materialism. And they did. Like, this part of Marxism, I love. I think it is utterly beautiful. And their tactics, evangelical to the core. The first start process, you'd have to stand on a corner, pass out tracts, so that you get used to being hazed, getting embarrassed. I used to pass out tracts as a teenager because our church had to, they made that a thing that was like a good thing to do. So, yes, evangelicals believe they have a message, which is so important, they should share it with people. That can be done in a, let's just say, frankly, cack-handed way. But it's also, you could say, it's a nice thing. If someone's like, I have something that's really important, it'll change your life, and well, good, please do share it with me. Marxists believe historically the same thing. Protestant liberals basically say God exists, and Jesus is someone, but it doesn't really matter. And so that they'll find that offensive, but there's a great interaction between Christopher Hitchens and a Protestant liberal, where Hitchens basically is like a good fundamentalist. And he's like, you don't even believe in the resurrection of Jesus. He's like, what's the point of your idea of Christianity? And the Protestant minister is trying to defend themselves. But, Hitchens is entirely correct. So insofar as evangelicalism and the way you're describing it, Dave, is you have this message. Yeah, exactly. There's something very American about it. Think about Europeans. They hate this part of evangelicalism. Well, that's because they don't believe in anything that they think they should share with anyone, except that they know how to live rightly and Americans are obnoxious. Now, I love European culture, but what I mean is Europeans do not have a sense of evangelicalism, and this is connected to why capitalism is very weak in European society. If you have a product, you absolutely must believe it's worth having. If you don't believe it's worth having, you won't market it. If you won't market it, guess what? As people know, it will not sell. So you could say, is evangelicalism marketing, or is marketing evangelizing? From a historical standpoint, the fact that what you're marketing is a commodity, okay, that makes it marketing. And you can give your nice Marxist critique, which I think people can tell I'm very sympathetic to these forms of Marxist critique. I've never let them go. But from a historical standpoint, marketing is just the next evolution of evangelicalism. So evangelicals really are the quintessential Americans in the best sense. Now, also in the worst sense, I would admit that too. But I think when you're really wealthy, it seems, and you're raised in a very emotionally kind but affectionately distant environment, which is a very deep part of the American WASP upper class. The white American upper class is emotionally highly distanced, often when it comes to physical affection and time, because the parents invest a huge amount of money, but often not a lot of time and physical affection, at least from the father figure into the child. And this goes back also to the fact that the American upper class idealizes their image of the English upper class, which is, of course, famously repressive, affectionately and emotionally, but then also very, kindly in a verbal sense, you might say. And so they are the group of America that, because they represent the leadership class of America and they control the media, even though they're only 10% of the economy, they make it seem like evangelicals are weird. But the secular person or the Protestant liberal person who went to Choate and Harvard and thinks the idea of standing up and saying, like, come ye sinners and be converted is completely embarrassing, will have no problem having a trust fund created by someone like, Warren Buffett, who has no problem telling people, here's these companies, here's why I buy them, who supports the principles of good businesses like Geico, which is owned by Berkshire Hathaway and is probably, I think, one of the greatest marketing ventures in the world. They have really good insurance, of course. But my point is the idea that marketing is something unique to a class of Americans like evangelicals is the delusion of Americans who are so financially well off, they don't have to be directly involved in marketing to appreciate the capital benefits of it. Whereas if you're in the middle class, you have to participate in the activity that forms capital in order to actually accrue capital. And so you don't think of marketing as weird, including marketing your religion. But if you're an upper class liberal, marketing feels ugly because that's something your financial manager is essentially doing for you.